Join us for a roundtable discussion with members of the Knesset, Idan Rol and Ohad Tal, moderated by Rabbi Eli Shemtov, where they discussed ideas from Trump's plan in Gaza to Israel's relationship with the Congress to the startup nation to what is happening next and what we can be doing around the world.
Little introduction about Rabbi Knesset Ohad Tal, who's joining us here today. Does a lot of different things, but I'm going to read it and tell me if I made any mistakes, okay?
Sure, no problem.
That he is the chair now of the religious Zionist faction in the Knesset, and you are the Public Enterprise Knesset Committee chair as well. I know you serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee, you serve on the Economic Committee, and you have a very strong interest in not only the U.S.-Israel connection, but also about the young Jews in America that are facing some extreme anti-Semitism. And we were honored that he was able to come a couple weeks ago to speak to a room in Washington, D.C., and give a fascinating speech connected with the Torah, with politics, and we'd be honored if you're able to share some of the work that you do. So if you want to start off with that, and then we'll ask some questions.
Of course.
While we're waiting.
Okay. So again, welcome to the Knesset. Welcome to our faction room here in the Knesset. And here is Idan Rol also joining us. Welcome, Idan. Shalom, shalom.
Eli Shemtov. Idan. Hello, everyone.
So I'll speak for a couple of minutes, and then we'll speak for a couple of minutes, and then we'll open it for your questions. So just to share some thoughts, I believe that we are witnessing with our own eyes history in process, okay? Because 16 months ago, we were in a place that we were fighting, literally we were fighting for our survival. When Iran built in decades an unbelievable terror infrastructure all around us for the one and only purpose, and that is to destroy Israel. Okay, Hezbollah with 150,000 ballistic missiles and 40,000 soldiers, Shiite militias in Syria, and similar number in Iraq. And of course the Houthis in Yemen, and Hamas, and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, and in Judea and Samaria, surrounding Israel with unbelievable army and forces and weapons and finances and everything they can in order to destroy Israel. And we were actually fighting for our survival. We were under a serious existential threat. I know not everybody fully realizing that, but that was the reality. And in the past 16 months, where we're standing today is a whole different place. We still haven't finished the job. There's still many challenges. There's still a lot of things that we need to do. But everybody understands today that we're not in the same place. We've seen that Hezbollah lost all their leadership. They've lost most of their rockets, about 80% of that they've lost. They've lost territory in Lebanon. They've lost most of their infrastructure. The Assad regime is gone. And in less than a week, their entire army, almost their entire army was destroyed. Navy vessels, airplanes, tanks, 80% of that gone, not there anymore. Of course, also the forces in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and even attacking in Tehran. Israel has attacked in Tehran, which, by the way, they haven't responded to our last attack, which means they also know that they are in a very different place right now. And of course, Trump in the White House is a whole different reality also for the future. Again, I don't want to go into politics too much, but the last couple of years, the last 4 years they weren't so easy for Israel. I can say that. Okay, and of course now the fact that the current administration is fully supporting Israel in almost every topic. I would even say on every topic. Okay, on the Iranian issue, on the Hezbollah issue, on the Hamas issue, on the Gaza issue, on the Houthis, on every aspect. There's a full understanding and agreement and alliance with America. What the next goals, the next step should be. And when again the leadership of America, not when they're giving their statements, they're not saying, we're condemning violence on both sides, as if, which again, these are things we've heard in the last couple of years, as if there's some kind of equation between where Israel is and where Hamas is. Okay, there is no equation, and I think again Trump fully understands that. He understands that there are good and there's evil, and we cannot compare the two things. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. Of course, what he's said about what he sees as the solution to what should happen in Gaza, committing to eliminating Hamas, bringing back all the hostages, making sure that Gaza will not have the ability to threaten Israel any longer. That's a huge change. And I think the past 16 months, and especially October 7th, I think what it should do is to bring us to the understanding that we should go back to the truth. We should stop fooling ourselves with all kinds of illusions, as we've done. We have to admit, we've done in the past 30 years. The illusion, the two-state solution, for one thing, we understand today that the meaning of the two-state solution is the destruction of the state of Israel. So if you understand that, so let's stop fooling ourselves. Let's try to look for other ideas. And I can discuss that. I can talk about that for hours, and I don't want to do that now. But that's one example. We should go back to the truth. The truth is that only if Israel will be stronger and will have the ability to control what I believe, everything here, the whole territory of the land of Israel, because the land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel. That's the basic fundamental truth, and we should say that. And only after we will say that, we will acknowledge that, then we can also discuss all the security issues. But we can definitely, if we will look at that from that perspective, we can definitely build a better future for everybody, by the way, for everybody, for Arabs and Jews alike, because now everybody is suffering, everybody. But I don't want to take too much of your time, also, Idan.
Well, now that you're both here, I would like to introduce member of Knesset, Idan Rol, who was the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs under the Lapid-Bennett government, and also served on the foreign affairs and economics, and I think also was very involved in the fight of anti-Semitism that is going on as best as you can, and you're both, doing your best. And I just want to, first of all, thank you both for sitting down. I know that you guys are on two sides of the government, but certain issues like anti-Semitism in America and in general, and how things are becoming politicized so much in America that it's borderline dangerous at this point. By agreeing to sit down, I think it shows the seriousness of the issue, that it affects everyone. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. So if you don't mind sharing some of the work that you've done to combat that, and where you see the U.S.-Israel relationship now, maybe as opposed to a couple of years ago when you were in your position.
So welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure having you here in the Knesset. These are the normal hours. In a few hours it will all become very hectic, but this is the peaceful hours of the Knesset when things seem civilized, and so don't be fooled by that. The introduction basically entails most of it, so I will not go into length about my own personal history and experience. I've been here in the Knesset for 6 years almost, and I've been part of the former government. I think that President Trump has done a tremendous shift for the Jewish people. You know, the Israeli media tends, well, it's also a lot of the traditional media in the United States, in my opinion, they tend to overlook the complexities of his actions and how crystallized everything is. And they tend to see it as if, as like, is it possible or not? Will it succeed or not? Is it a plan just for the sake of having a plan, or is it something tangible that we can do? And first of all, I think that whatever he suggests can become reality, but the main things that he already gave the Jewish people is, well, he put an end to PC as it became, too vast and controlling of almost of the entire conversation. And I think that part of what the Jewish people, especially Jews in America and here as an outcome, have been facing for the past few years is this intersectionality, where you have this unhealthy understanding of what is bad and what is good. And Ohad, touched on that briefly before. And when we become the bad people in every scenario, it makes anti-Semitism really easy. Some might call it anti-Zionism, some will just say it as it is. It's anti-Semitism. So I hope that now that the conversation is being driven in a different way, that is more based on facts, on arguments, on essence of actually looking at, okay, you have a murderous terror organization and you have the Jewish state. Wait, like who's bad and who's good in this scenario? And I think people will now be more open to listening. I think that is making a lot of amazing strides forward for free speech, and we will see most of it, I guess, unfold in the next year or so. So this is something that is gonna change the way we also deal with anti-Semitism and with the backlash we receive here in Israel. And the second is that I think that President Trump is the first one, I know he is, the first one that managed to make fringe ideas become mainstream. And the understanding that the Gazans do not want to coexist with us, and that moving them to a different country can benefit them, us, the region, is something that was discussed here in different rooms in the Knesset, but it was always perceived as like this remote, vague idea that cannot materialize. So when people judge, so to speak, President Trump's plan by saying it's not, we haven't seen an elaborated plan, or maybe it's not doable, they overlook the fact that he already did so much for us by making this idea a mainstream idea that people are now discussing and weighing in the pros and cons. So this is huge, and it has the potential, if this government will grab this opportunity with both hands, and it has the potential for changing the narrative of the region and of Israel for the next decade or so. And so the future has a lot of bright opportunities. I think that a lot relies on what we're gonna do in the upcoming months. And it's time for brave decisions, but also on the domestic aspect, if we will not make it, I call this next few years the make or break point for Israel, because we have regained a lot of our deterrence back and our faith in ourselves, and a lot of domestic things that are going on are amazing with the public. It still doesn't translate here to the House of Representatives. If we don't manage to create long-lasting, wide coalitions that have the right ideas in mind, and that can actually execute long-term plans for Israel with AI, housing, education, everything. So we will find ourselves in a very tough spot. We have the prospects of having some great years ahead, but we also have the prospects of dropping the ball. So, yeah.
I would pose a question, and I guess you could answer in whichever order. And I'm sure we'll hear two different perspectives. What is the greatest threat that is, and I think, to elaborate a little bit, is that the U.S.-Israel connection has always relied on a very strong bipartisan support. Now that you see that in America is cracking slightly, what is the way to make sure that it doesn't fully crack and to repair it back to the way that it was? Because even 2 years ago to now, you're seeing to be pro-Israel is now something that isn't 100% foolproof in the Senate, in the House. You have many members of the Senate and House that are now blatantly anti-Israel. So what is the way to shift course, in your opinion? And you can start in whichever order.
We're very polite people.
Israelis.
Israelis are known as polite people.
Right? So now I insist that you will speak first.
Like a true Israel.
I've been monitoring it, Congress and seeing, we've had the squad and we tend to count fingers. I think that overall a lot has to do with how the decision making of the Israeli leadership and the way it conveys these decisions. I think that the Trump administration offers this huge opportunity, like I said, and it can also impact the conversation about Israel altogether. Also in the Democratic Party, also Trump's success domestically will also have an impact on his views on Israel, meaning that if this term is considered or viewed in the American public as a successful one, also domestically, there will be more credit given towards his thoughts and stands on Israel. So I think these two are linked: his foreign policy and his domestic policy. But also, for many years, we haven't been able to convey our story in a very good way. I mean, there's blunt anti-Semitism, so that's a rough spot to begin with, but that's a given situation, so we can't just complain about it. Right. But just look at this war. We've had already 500 days of war today, and we have almost zero people that are engaging with public diplomacy, that actually we don't have a plan for it, we don't narrate the Israeli narrative, and yes, we are the David on this side also. There's like this big mechanism on the other side, and it's well funded, but we're doing nothing. Nothing. There are no employees doing this. There's no budgets. There's no innovation, no technologies. And so we can always complain about how the conversation is being navigated, but we're not even doing the bare minimum to better our situation. And we need to keep in mind, we live in the forefront of the Middle East and different changes that are going on. But we also have to take it upon ourselves to tell the world about it. So we've been telling the world about Iran, okay? We've done a, decent job, mainly with the nuclear aspect, not with the missiles aspect, but now this war kind of changed that, and with the Houthis and everyone knows about the web of proxies. But now you have Turkey and you have other threats, and we can't be lingering and waiting for it to explode for us to, devise a plan on how to tell the world there's a new axis of potential terror that is forming in front of our very eyes. So it seems like we're always lagging behind, and I think that the government is not doing what it should be with that. I
think that if to refer to Iran, I think they've done the work for us. And I don't think it's because what we've done or haven't done. And I think Netanyahu is speaking about the threat coming from Iran for years and years and years, and nobody wanted to listen to him. The fact that now more people in the world are listening to him doesn't necessarily mean that we've done a good job. It's because the reality has shifted in such a way that it's very hard to ignore that.
Yeah, you can't overlook it.
Yes, but I must say that I'm still not convinced that the world is actually realizing the threat. And you know what? Even if the world realizes the threat, if the world will actually be willing to change its approach and policies towards Iran, because again, when I'm speaking also about Israel, we are part of Western civilization, and we became addicted. And I think that's the greatest sickness of Western society, that we became addicted to buy peace and quiet, hoping that if we will pay the bully, he will leave us alone. And the reality has proven, beyond any doubt, I think on October 7th, and of course everything Iran is doing, is that the bully is not going to leave us alone. No matter how much we will pay him, he's not going to leave us alone. And unfortunately, the West is not there yet. Now, just to refer to your question, first of all, I do agree that it's something we have to pursue to try and keep the bipartisan support for Israel. I'm not fooling myself. It's extremely, it's a huge challenge, and I'm not sure we will succeed. And again, I want to make it even more complicated, because even in the Republican Party, we know that the reality that we are seeing today is not going to hold for many years, because we are seeing shifts also in the Republican side of the isolationists who are becoming stronger and stronger in the Republican Party, which they are a threat to Israel, not less than the extreme woke culture on the other side. So we're seeing challenges on both sides. We are trying to address that, but not everything, is in our hands. Despite the fact that we believe that we are Jews and everything is around us, not everything is in our hands.
Yeah.
I just want to add on that I think, and I thought differently in the past, but there are some things that we can do or that we won't do, and it will probably affect the way some parts of the Democratic Party views us, but that's just the way it is. I mean, Israel is not your typical Western country, Western democracy. Yeah. We're a very strong democracy, but we are, the state of the Jewish people. And it has all kinds of implications that makes us different than France or Germany or Canada. And so I think what we should be doing...
It's a country filled with Jews. It's crazy. How do you run such a country? That's the first difference.
That was my next question.
We need to drive the conversation in a different way. We're not supposed to be trying to align ourselves with the rest of Western democracies and try and say, no, look, we are a liberal democracy. Look, this is because of ABC. Yeah. No, we should probably say we live in a different neighborhood. We are a different kind of a liberal democracy, but a strong one, and we have these circumstances that other countries do not have, and because of that, we have to choose we have to walk a different path. We have to take decisions that are different, and not apologize for it. Right. Whether or not it will win us more support, I don't know, but the other way around will definitely not work, and also will have bad implications on our way of doing things here and decision making.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously very apropos. We know that nothing happens by chance, and everything is hashgacha pratis from God. That we're here in this week's parsha when we talk about all the laws and justice and that whole system. And I think one of the lines that we say in this week's parsha is about not showing favoritism to the poor. That justice has to be equal, even when someone's in a bad situation. You have to have justice shine through, and I think that in politics it's a very true message about holding up your ideals, even when it's not the popular opinion, and it may gain you more support. But I always like to ask, and I know that we're running out of time here, so I guess we could finish off with one actionable item that I'd like to ask everyone. And we've had 3 events in the last month with Well, first starting off with when you were able to speak with us, and then the Deputy Foreign Minister, Shirin Haskell, and then when the Prime Minister came, he did the same type of roundtable with the young professionals and students. And that question that's always asked is, what is the actionable item that everyone in this room can leave with back to America? It's a bunch of young professionals from the US who don't live in Israel, and there's a real battle. The battle for life is going on here on the front lines, but the battle, I think, for the Jewish identity is playing out across the campuses and across the workplaces in America, where people are getting canceled for being pro-Israel, people are getting accosted in campus, people are being told it's not your fault that you were born in Israel by professors in universities. Yeah. This is the reality for young Jews today. Yeah. So what is one actionable item that everyone here can leave with, that when we go back to the U.S. in different cities, is something that we are empowered to combat that and to be able to make the choice and help the others around us choose to take the side of being pro-Israel, even though it isn't popular and even though you may get canceled and harassed for it, versus the easy way out when it's just throw this all away because it's too hard. And again, I'm not going to put either of you, whoever wants to start.
I think that what we all should do, and it's the hardest challenge, I think, of all, and that is to stand with the truth and be assured that standing with the truth, as much as it's hard and as much as it takes prices and as much as everybody may hate you for that, at the long run, that will actually win. And when I'm saying standing with the truth, is not because I mean, we are seeing the anti-Semitic campaigns against Jews as much as we are seeing the anti-Semitic campaigns against Israel. They're all just lies, simple, basic lies. And yes, we should fight it. And just one example, the fact that Israel is being described as illegal occupier, okay? We are illegal occupiers in this land. I want to say something about that, and I want to even to show you something. And I'm holding here in my hand a coin, okay? It's a very special coin. First of all, it's made out of pure silver, and it carries ancient Hebrew letters on it. On the one side, it says Chatzi HaShekel, half a shekel. On the other side, it says Yerushalayim HaKadosha, Holy Jerusalem. Now, can you guess how old this coin is?
2,000 years old.
Exactly.
Longer than
2,000 years old. How do we know? Because we have here the year when it was stamped. And this coin was stamped 2 years before the destruction of the Second Temple. Okay? 2,000 years old coin with Hebrew letters mentioning the city of Jerusalem in Hebrew, and I'm holding it here in my hands now after 2,000 years of exile, again in the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem. That is the truth. And when everybody will come and tell you that we are illegal occupiers, you will remember this coin and you will tell him that is false. That's just simply false. And I think we should again be proud of who we are. That's the beginning. Get a stronger connection to our Jewish identity, because that's the basic for everything. As much as our Jewish identity will get stronger, I am sure that our ability also to stand with the truth and to fight for the truth also will be stronger.
I agree with what Ohad said, but I want to also add another task which might be just as hard, maybe harder. It's hard to stand against anti-Semitism. It's definitely hard to stand against it when you feel like you are outnumbered or alone. Some people have it bad when they're like one of few on campus. So what makes it easier and also will be very beneficial for the Jewish people is getting more people on board. And what we're facing throughout the years is the problem of having so many people that are not part of the circles that we know how to reach. They're not affiliated, they don't have a congregation. We know they are there, but we can't, we can't identify them and reach them and tell them, and help them with additional information, and I think that's the main mission. And sometimes when we really believe in something, we want someone to be fully on board. But I think we should view it as even getting, just someone having their, their fingers, dipped in the pool is enough just to start with. We need to look for those who don't feel like they have any connection, maybe to their Jewish identity, maybe also to Israel. And, with small bites, just get them interested in becoming, acquainted with us. Or maybe they don't have to necessarily, become part of Chabad or Hillel, but just getting them curious again, or maybe for the first time, about their Jewish identity and about Israel. And they don't have to agree, right off the bat with everything Israel stands for. They don't. And if they're even very critical of us, it's fine. It means they care. But we as people, and definitely as the Jewish people, because we are always facing anti-Semitism, we tend to pick fights with our biggest critics and the ones that with our haters, and that's usually a waste of time. We should devote this time, because we're not going to change their opinion, even so the conversion rate is really bad. So we need to, it's just not really worth our while. We need to take this energy and this time and find ways to reach out to people who are not part of our circles, and maybe they want to be, but to the certain degree when they feel comfortable. I compare it to volunteering. When I tell people in organizations, you don't have to get people to do, like 80 hours a month to become volunteers. Let people be part of it. Let them lower the threshold. Let people feel like they care. They can come to an event once a year. They don't have immediately to post about Israel or come here. But let's try and widen the circles, because I think that's also a big challenge for us as people, definitely for Israel as the Jewish state, and it can also be a lot of fun.
So, in principle, bringing more people to Chabad Washington, that will help solve all the problems.
I'm speaking to the right audience.
I just wanted to thank you both for your time and for giving us amazing insights.
But I insist also to hear a little bit of them also. So maybe some questions or some remarks if you want. Please feel free.
Sure. Hey, gentlemen, thank you both for being here. My name is Jack Wallace. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. One thing that's really struck me about this war is how media has been weaponized against Israel. I honestly think it's one of the biggest problems you're facing in America through your message. And there doesn't seem to have, you even said it, there hasn't been an effective response against that. Obviously, people can post things on social media and all of that. I'll maybe cut to the chase here. The images coming out of Gaza, no doubt, are horrible because it's war. And I know the Israeli government made a choice to not release the raw footage of what happened on October 7th, but has been going and showing it to delegations around the world. Do you think releasing that footage would have an impact on how the world views what happened on October 7th? Because what I've seen in America is people just don't believe it. And maybe they won't believe it even if they saw it, and maybe they wouldn't watch it. But it's very easy to deny something when you don't see it. You didn't encounter it. You don't know anyone who's tied to it. On some level, it reminds me of the Rabbi Eli book. At the beginning, I think of Night, where he talks about, the man who comes back to the village, talking about what the Nazis did to the other. No one believes him. And they stay in the village and no one murder.
Yeah.
So how do we combat that if we're not willing to allow those things to be seen, even if we're trying to protect the identity and the privacy of the families? it's a horrible position to be in, but it's a question that's been on my mind. It's a great question.
I don't think that showing the film would have changed completely, because I think that what Israel is facing is trying to deliver a complex message, where at once we are the victims of this, horrendous massacre on October 7th, but also we are the stronger army. This has been one of our challenges, trying to convey we are startup nation, the strongest army in the region, and we're also weak and vulnerable. I think that it might serve some sort of an impact, but we're too further down the road already. It's mainly about trying to make sure that the images that the world sees from Gaza are not the only images they see. I think that the ones that do not believe us will also say that, okay, even if it happened, it doesn't justify, because then you go into a debate about why a ground maneuver campaign takes so long and how else it can be done. I think that Israel should just focus on making sure that that the world understands that we follow the international law and that we do everything according to this. Also, if you put into the conversation some numbers about other countries and their history and the casualties in their wars, I think it puts a lot of things into perspective with the Israeli war in Gaza.
Yeah, I hope Israel can find a way to deal with that.
I just want to add to that. I agree with everything. I just want to add one more thing. Also to your story about Elie Wiesel. At the end of the day, the reality back then with the Nazis is very different than what we are facing today, because now not only that the guy coming to the village and telling us that the Nazis are doing so and so, but now there's billions and billions and billions of dollars who are invested to tell the world, to tell the people of the village that the Nazis are actually the cutest kitty. And the guy who's telling the story, he is the devil. So that's even much harder challenge. So just to put that also in that perspective.
So then it's even more important that Israel has
You're right.
someone on the forefront of this.
I agree, but I'm also saying that we have to match our expectations because we will not be able to cure anti-Semitism. We will not be able to solve this problem. And no matter how much we'll try and how much money we will invest, it will always be almost nothing in compare to how much those who are against us are putting into it.
I agree, but I think that if we had a proper mechanism, we could have done a better job with traditional media outlets. Maybe social media, that's a whole different ballgame because of the money and the algorithms and everything that Ohad mentioned. But we definitely could have made a bigger impact with New York Times, Guardian, ABC, and all of the big, news outlets that we know.
So follow up on your desire to have a institutionalized system. How are you leveraging the grassroots Israeli social media boom that's occurred? That's really been doing a great job of combating it, especially as the war has gone on. There's been so many grassroots people that have come up and start becoming significant influencers and really combating it. Right. From Rudy Rahman to Jock Bookwalder,
right.
There are tons of people out there that are doing an amazing job.
So I must say on that at this war, one of the things that the foreign ministry has done, and I think in a much better way than in the past, is that to take many of these people, to invest in them. So you will not see a campaign with a logo of the State of Israel behind it, but many of these people are operating today with the support of the State of Israel. So it's already happening.
A lot of great civil initiatives closed down because they were lacking funding. Yeah. It was minimal funding.
Yeah, so that's
because bureaucracy here makes it almost impossible.
It's also true.
As someone who was in charge of public diplomacy in the foreign ministry, it makes it almost impossible to take out the money, to pay vendors, to make everything is.
We have to fight bureaucracy. Yeah, I agree with you on that. We need to import some methods from America. By the way,
After October 7th,
I know I'm not the keynote speaker or anything, but after October 7th, my sister was in Sikkim, so jumped on a plane and I, as you can see, do content and started making content. And I've got a group of non-Jews, quite a vast network that watch it, and you see the impact. And I was working with the consulate in New York and Miami, and the infrastructure is definitely.
Where are you from originally?
Australia.
Australia, okay.
Yeah.
I thought
I was a bit nervous
hearing
showing my passport when I walked in. I thought, but I work for the,
Oh, we hope to see change in Australia also.
From your mouth to God's ear, I mean.
Yeah.
But regardless of the bureaucratic bumbling, which I could go into in detail,
Right. Yeah.
the conversation and the banging of the kettle of what happened on October 7th and what that looks like is, and this is going to sound rough to say, but it's getting a bit old and boring, quite frankly, for non-Jews and people that aren't
I agree.
a part of our community. So part of the reasons I'm here is also to work with, like you said, the Startup Nation and meet a bunch of startup businesses and try to show their stories to America. But with you both here, I think it's worth, for my sake as well as everyone here, asking the question of what can be the next conversation. What can we be talking about next to keep the support of Israel going, to not continuously be saying, look at what happened, look at what happened, look at what happened, but say, this is what's happening now, this is what's going to be happening next. You need to support us because of X, Y, and Z.
I think two things. One is the threat, the international threat. People need to understand that it also, relates to them. I mean, people care, but it's harder to strike empathy when you have nothing to do with the subject in hand, and it's easier to provoke empathy and fear when you actually need to be fearing for your life, because obviously Israel is, we have the axis of terror on our borders, but it has reached other countries and it will reach more substantially and hopefully not other countries. So I think that people need to understand that it's a global threat and not just an Israeli problem. And we haven't been doing a good enough job with that. It's okay with me if they don't care for Israel as much as they care for their own lives. But they need to understand that we're just in the forefront of it. And the second thing is the potential. The potential for change, the potential for a change for the region. That can also strike a chord with those who seek peace, and I think everyone seeks peace, and stability in the region. So people need to understand that there's one thing that is radical Islam. It fuels the axis of terror, Iran. That poses a global threat, and eliminating that also usher in a new era of stability and peace in the region. So it's bigger than Israel, but Israel is standing in the core of it. Yeah. But people can find different ways to relate to it because it can impact their own lives regardless of us.
Very short. Okay. Actually, I think you asked is the most important question, which I have a very, very long answer to, which I cannot give right now. But I must say,
my number.
Okay. But yeah, and I'll be very happy if you'll come on other occasions. I'll be very happy to discuss it. But I'm saying, I think it goes back to what I've spoke before about identity and about the truth. And I think Israel can offer a new vision for the world about what is good and what is bad, and offer a good alternative for everybody. Because sorry for being to speak about spiritual issues, but yes, it goes back to Isaiah when Isaiah speaks about that at the end of the days. The temple will be firmly established at the peak of the mountains, and all nations shall stream to it. For my house shall be a house of prayer for all nations. That is the purpose we are here to serve. We are not here to serve ourselves. We are not here just to survive. We are not here just to fight the Arabs. No, we are here for the sake of humanity, of making the world a better place. This is why we are here. That is the fundamental truth, and we should believe in it. We should speak about it. And at the end of the day, I hope that we'll be able to convince more people to believe it also. But that's just really briefly.
A quick group photo.
Sure.
Appreciate it.